Welcome to the space for transformational leaders to unleash their magic, see better client results, work lighter, and live source. Hi, welcome to Shift the Field TV. This is Darla Ledoux, and my conversation today is, does your psychic know best, or do you? I'm going to share a little tool with you about how to discern when to use an intuitive reader and when not to. This conversation is inspired by a discussion I had with a friend who's working on growing her business, and we were talking about what she most needs in the next year to help her business grow. And she spoke about the messages that she was getting from all of her readers and the Akashic records and all of that about what this year is supposed to be like for her, what changes she needs to make in order for her year to be, the way it's supposed to be according to the records. And in the conversation, I could hear that there were things that she was saying she was consistently hearing from her readers, but then she would share something else and it would be clear that she wasn't actually doing the things that her psychic readers were telling her she needed to do in order to have the thing. So it was like she's using readings as information to give her enough guidance to decide certain things, but not actually taking it as enough as guidance to actually do the rest of the things, if that makes sense. So she's kind of picking and choosing which parts of these readings she's going to use and what's appropriate and what's not. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, right? We should always tune in to our own knowing about whether information is right for us. I'm not saying that. But there were these constant contradictions of like, my psychic said this, I'm doing this and this are not the same, even though she said this, but I'm going to believe this, and I'm going to live as if this is true, but I'm not going to take the action to make this true. So why does this happen, and when is it appropriate to use readers? So first of all, to use psychics or intuitive readers. So first of all, I love me some intuition. We teach about what we call sourced magic, which is your way of knowing and discerning truth, your way of connecting with source and receiving information that maybe is beyond logic. So I'm 100% believer in that we can access information that is not logical or linear and not obvious and not here necessarily in the physical plane. And when we work with our clients at Sourced, we help transformational leaders to offer and deliver their work, right? To be able to market and sell their services. And when we teach our clients to do this, we often steer them away, unless their knowing really wants to, we often steer them away from offering intuitive readings or one-off sessions where they channel a truth and give it to someone. Like, this is what you should do, or this is what your guides want you to know. And it's coming through in this moment. And the reason for that is because often people use it, like my colleague, where the information, they may or may not actually act on it, right? And so it might be an exchange of a little bit of money, an exchange of some information, but nothing actually changes in real life. So I'm going to share why that is, and I'm going to share when, if you are someone who's not working with a coach regularly, when do you know to get that kind of intuitive information? Or if you are working with a coach regularly, which I always recommend, I can't imagine life without it, when you might add a supplemental reading or piece of intuitive information in the mix. So on my trusty flip chart, I am going to share the anatomy of a transformation. Okay, this is one of the core tools that we teach at Sourced. And there's 3 stages to the anatomy of a transformation. I write about it in my book, Shift the Field. The first stage is commitment. The second is what I call the sourced experience. This is our branded way of talking about transformation, or how we really receive a truth that's going to make a difference for us. And then the third stage is integration. This is when we go out in our life and actually do the things and make the changes and implement the knowing in a way that makes a radical difference in our life. So within the sourced experience, there are 3 steps: release, receive, and rise. Release has to do with releasing our perception of control. Receive is about receiving a truth, like a divine truth, something that we didn't know, that once we know it, it can change our awareness and therefore change our energy and how we interact with life. And then rise is actually the way we create in a new energy out in the world. Okay? So release, receive, rise. When my friend is getting psychic readings and not in a container or a context for a particular transformation that she wants to have, she is here receiving truth and receiving truth and receiving truth and receiving truth, but without commitment. So when we teach our clients our clients are all magical, transformational leaders. They have access to truth that's beyond logic. They can see or pick up things from their clients that their clients may not be aware of. Clients always have access to it too, but they may not be aware of it. So we teach our clients until their client is actually committed to going through this process for transformation. Sharing the truth makes no difference. So people are often, I don't want to say makes no difference, but it doesn't make a big difference, right? And so in a reading, there's like this channeling of truth, but it could be with a client who's not actually committed to doing anything with it. Now, this isn't bad, right? They may take it in and maybe years later, finally they get committed and they remember the thing that you said and they go do the thing. For me, if I'm going to get a reading, I might just do it for fun or, entertainment purposes or whatever. But if I am really in a place where I'm committed to shifting something, my discomfort is greater than my fear of change, or my desire is greater than my fear of change, and I have surrendered control, maybe something has happened in my life, we call it a sourced experience, that's made me go, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I am open to receiving. I'm open to seeing what I haven't seen about what's not working in my life. That might be a good time to get a reading, right? Because now we're willing to receive a truth. We're willing to see something that we haven't seen. And from there, the rest of the transformation takes place. So that's the appropriate place to gather intuitive information. Now, I will add, it's my recommendation that you have support for the rise, which is, okay, now that I've seen this truth, how do I shift my energy and who am I now becoming? And how do I go integrate that into my day-to-day life? How do I integrate that? So having support for the rest of the journey also is important to me. So if you're going to buy a one-off reading, know that you are in a place where you're ready to receive it and that you have support afterwards to kind of sort through, what do I do with this? And the reason being that we can't see it fully, and our tendency is going to be to want to go back. Now, I envision a world where that's not true, where we're transforming continually as humans as we interact with life. That's the world I would love to create because we are resourced and we understand this. But currently, it takes something to go back into your regular life and be a different energy. So I also recommend having support for after the reading. I hope this is helpful. I would love to know your thoughts. Totally open to discussion about this. And if you offer readings, feel free to let us know. If you've gone away from offering readings, I'd love to hear about that as well, and I'd love to hear why. If you've gotten value, please like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you in the next video.